Welcome. I'm Liz Taylor, ocean explorer, naturalist, and entrepreneur.
I'm Sylvia Earle. I'm an ocean elder, a National Geographic explorer, founder of Mission Blue.
And an ocean elder.
I said that first.
I know. Just repeat it. This is our show, Dive In, where we host informal and open conversations with the ocean community on topics of wonder and interest. And as usual, the most wonderful and interesting thing that I have to do is share my screen.
Technology rocks.
It wasn't so bad today.
And there we are.
Here we are. Before we dive in today, and remind everybody that the world is blue.
Really blue.
Really
blue. You turn the world to face the Pacific, and where's the land? It's little specks of land scattered across the blue Pacific. And anyway, Bill Anders, who took the photograph of Earthrise, says this is his favorite picture because it's just the truth. The world is blue.
But before we really dive in, we wanted to say thank you to all of our veterans and service members out there on Veterans in Remembrance Day.
Right.
This beautiful bird has collected all these poppies, made a nest of them.
Bird with good taste.
Exactly. But today we're going to be joined by Jeff Kirschner, founder of Literati, and Melody, one of our most enduring.
Literati.
Literati.
Litter.
And Melody, who's one of our most enduring dive-in participants and youth advocates. So welcome, you two. You can turn on your video and microphone if you would. There they are.
Melanie is a star.
Yes, she is.
So are you, Jeff. But
well, welcome to you both.
So nice to be here. Thank you for having us.
So yeah, it's a dream come true.
Well, before we dive in and do some trash talking, Melody, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, okay. Hi, my name is Melody. I'm 12 years old and I have a goal of becoming a marine biologist. Ever since I encountered orcas, my passion for this marine mammal grew, and I soon learned that they're deeply affected by plastic pollution. Sylvia has been a huge influence on me. I learned about Sylvia by watching Mission Blue on Netflix. And I was so fortunate to be able to meet Sylvia at the Aquarium of the Pacific. I decided to save the ocean. So I started my beach cleanups on World Oceans Day last year. And when I got really tired of doing beach cleanups, Sylvia and Liz really encouraged me on this program to never give up and continue making differences. I always think about what would Sylvia do. And I've been participating in many beach cleanups, and I have made many incredible friends. I'm doing this because it's my passion, and it's a promise that I made with Sylvia and Liz. And this program really helped me to become the person that I am today. Thank you.
Thank you.
How about Jeff? Can you say?
Okay, Jeff, it's your turn.
That's a tough act to follow. My name is Jeff Kirschner, and I'm the founder at Literati. And we are on a mission to create a litter-free world. And, Melody, my inspiration actually came from my now 13-year-old daughter. So I was inspired by kids. And my children were walking through the woods one day and saw this plastic tub of cat litter lying in a creek and just said, "Daddy, that doesn't go there." Yeah. And that was the inspiration for starting Literati.
That's so awesome.
We've got such a great team here today.
We really do. So let's talk trash. We got a lot of trash to talk about. Trash talk. Yeah, trash talking. It's become pervasive. It's everywhere. This should be a nice little creek bed, and just look at it.
Clogged with our debris.
And the ocean as well. It all starts kind of upland and kind of makes its way down to the sea.
Yep. And that's just the surface view. Underwater. The remarkable thing is that creatures are attracted to any floating thing, whether it's a bird's feather or a plastic bottle or all the stuff you see here. Most of the trash actually turns out to be from fishing debris. I mean, like 80%. But You also see cups and straws and bags and all the many ways that we have made life convenient for us, but terribly inconvenient for the rest of life on Earth.
You know, plastic was originally intended as a highly durable good. This is a little collection of some of our family Tupperware, heirlooms. They date back to when did some of these?
1950s.
Yeah,
Your grandmother's Tupperware.
yeah. We still have her handwriting across the top of some, and they'll say like pecans or whatever she used to store in these things. But I mean, they're still just as functional today as they were then, and and we do keep them. We do still use them today.
Right.
And I'm always curious, like, what is the oldest piece of plastic that somebody has in their household that they still use on a regular basis?
Probably Tupperware. Yeah, anyway.
What about you guys? Do you have any enduring plastic in your lives that you always use, or?
So we used to buy these like little like ham in these little containers. We save it because we could use it over and over again, and we've been using it for a pretty long time now, actually, and it's pretty durable.
Yeah, that's the thing. The good thing about plastic, well, several good things. They're lightweight, they're relatively inexpensive, and they last a long time. In fact, geologists now measure our time on Earth starting in the 1950s as the as the Anthropocene, but you could say the Plasticine, because these synthetic materials really do last a long time, and combined with the effects of nuclear explosions that were in the 40s and 50s and continuing on till today, and all the soot and other materials from burning, our record is written in stone. A transition that is geologically evident in the rocks now and on into the future, starting in the middle of the 20th century.
Liz, that's a great question. I hadn't thought about that. What in my life has that's been a sort of plastic container for a long time. And I think it's the container we use to hold our cat's food. So we've had our cat for, I think he's 16. So that's at least 16 years old. We've used the same container.
That's incredible. That's great.
That's the way it should be.
It really should be. Yeah.
Glass containers are also durable, but they're also composed of the same material that, silicon dioxide mostly, and they don't leach damaging materials into the environment around them. And they tend to sink if they're in the ocean.
Yeah, and get crushed up and turned into sea glass.
That's right.
But
here's another durable plastic.
This is another durable plastic. We when we're building a human occupied submersible, we oftentimes will use acrylic, viewports or domes, or in this case, a sphere. But it's something where you anticipate a life of at least 20 to 25, even 30 years in some cases. And oftentimes you'll find alternative uses, or be able to upcycle something like this. And
I envision a big salad bowl.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Potato chips,
greenhouse, something. But it's really cool to find ways to adaptively reuse some of these materials. But the fact is that starting really in the 1970s, 1979, we really saw this transition away from paper bags and just this deluge of the single use, and particularly in the plastic bag. And this guy's collected up all these bags, and the bag man, he's just wearing everything he's found. It's really kind of crazy.
He's very huggable.
And then these containers.
Yeah. 1
cup of yogurt or cottage cheese or whatever it is.
Probably be there 1,000 years from now, sadly. And creatures sometimes mistake these translucent or transparent materials for jellyfish.
And then where it all starts, these tiny nurdles, these little tiny plastic bits. So this is sort of the raw material that's used to create plastic. But on one of our previous episodes, we talked about the spill of these nurdles in Mauritius. Yeah,
Mauritius. The ship went aground, and what was it loaded with? The basic raw materials that are then used for toys and bags and toothbrushes and you know, you name it, the whole array of disposable products.
But look at this effort to try to clean up these nurdles. Just
Kind
unbelievable.
of impossible in the end. They could not imagine getting them all.
You know, when you see a photo like this, it can feel overwhelming.
It really can. And you just sometimes feel hopeless about it, but it's one of the real beauties of, you know, like the app that you've created, because it allows people to really have cause for hope and to see that they are making a difference.
Tracking trash,
Tracking trash.
evidence. You know, if people don't know there's a problem, they are not inclined to do anything about a problem that if they don't know it exists. But now we know. Images help too.
And I think that it's the word hope is so important, because when people have something to strive towards and they feel a sense of momentum and a sense of community, and they realize that they don't have to solve this alone. There are others that they can collaborate with and communicate with. That sense of camaraderie is what provides that inspiration and hope.
Also, like Jeff said, like there's power in numbers. So, you know, working with other fellow ocean conservationists or marine biologists, you know, you can have this like big hope that, you know, you can save this planet, you know.
What would Melody do?
What would Melody do? That's right. So, you know, and this image I took just right adjacent to our building in Alameda, where there's a big sports field that has been put down that is made from the you know, the synthetic turf with the tire crumb in it. And this is all the tire crumb that just washes out after a big rainstorm. And, you know, these little microplastics, they get out in the environment, and we just, you know, we kind of lose track of it. But these are the sorts of creatures that can be impacted by any of these filter feeders when it gets to the
It
ocean.
includes oysters, clams,
Corals.
yeah, corals, feather duster worms, you know, the whole suite of organisms that are innocent recipients of our junk.
And this awesome albatross, you know, this is a bird that these birds can live 60, 70 plus years.
At least as long as humans.
At least as long as humans. And is this one from Midway?
That's Midway Island, yes.
So, you know, little island down the middle of the Pacific, very remote. And yet it just kind of accumulates. You can see lots of fishing debris. But the impacts can be devastating to these animals.
Yeah.
They pick up and mistake plastic for food. And the result is that their chicks are fed plastic and die.
This one image here was taken from a single young bird, innocent creature just being stuffed, again, innocently by its parents. And hey, it looked like something good to eat at the time.
But just imagine, you know, taking an image like this and applying the power of the Literati app to it, because then you can see like how many lighters, how many bottle caps, how many
toothbrushes,
you know, buttons, whatever they happen to be that are made of plastic.
Right.
And how could we, you know, potentially trace it back to some of the origins?
It's modern archaeology. Are you finding that true, Jeff?
We are, and it's interesting. We have a data scientist on our team who often refers to himself as sort of this modern garbologist, this modern archaeologist, because there's a story here to be told.
Where did this come from?
That's right. And one of the things we say at Literati is we call it the 5 eyes, right? You start by identifying, right? So for us, that's taking a photograph with the Literati application, but that identification presents information, right? And once you have information, that gives you insight. And once you have insight, that can actually lead to influence, whether it's influencing policy or smarter packaging. And when that influence occurs, it results in inspiration. And that just causes people to keep identifying and going down.
I love it. I.
That's a small animal too.
That's true. Big eyes.
Big eyes, yeah. But you know, it just the diversity in the kinds of plastic that are out there in the environment are they're really kind of stunning. Yeah.
Those fragments, as you point out, break up into small pieces, but then they go even to smaller pieces, nanoplastics. So what you see in this overflowing trash container ultimately will break down but it doesn't go away, right down to the molecular level. Synthetic materials are not found in nature, but now they're in the air we breathe, the water we drink, beer if you drink beer, whatever, the food. It's just hard to escape when plastic materials get to the almost submicroscopic level, but certainly so that they get wafted into the atmosphere, and then they are everywhere. That really is a problem.
Part of the litter problem that happens, I think, really is not only just what individuals do, but what, cities and municipalities do. I watched this trash can get filled up, and it sat like this with people just stacking stuff on top, and day after day, and it went on like this for over 2 weeks. No one emptied it, and birds are coming in and kind of picking through it and throwing things out, and we kind of diligently keep putting it back in the can, and but it speaks a lot to just the basic design flaws that we have in how we handle trash in many areas.
Right.
And again, I think that through the power of data and collecting information like this, and sharing it, that we can really help to implement better urban design.
You're absolutely right. And when you couple that with people like Melody, right, this younger generation who is so inspired to use the skills and the tools that are now available to us all, it really gives us that hope, right? Thank God for people like Melody who are here to make a difference.
We're not powerless.
We're not powerless.
We have the superpower because we know we've got the problems.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the will to get busy and do something about them.
And this is something we picked up. Just all of our dive masters are just passionate about picking up every scrap of trash around our building, before it reaches the bay. And in this bucket, we're really seeing the impact of the pandemic, because we're, not only people drinking more, but we're seeing these, we're seeing a lot of the PPE, and it's
I'm going to keep this as a sample of our stupidity in a way. I have this one that's a little more durable. I attended the COP26 meeting last week in Scotland, and there were some really cool masks being bandied about, including this one, 30 by 30, really pointing out the need to get to at least 30% of the land and sea protected.
That's a low bar.
Yeah, I agree. And the artists are getting involved. This is from Panama, using some of their traditional art pieces to make masks. I've heard really sage advice recently. Find a mask you like and then hang on to it. These throwaway systems seem like, oh, it's sanitary and all that, but there are better ways to protect yourself and your people around you. You don't have to have just single-use masks.
Well,
it's just part of the problem.
Right. It's really been highlighted, the same thing that we see with so-called fast fashion, because we see that people will go out and they'll buy, something that they wear once a season, or they just wear it once or twice, and then it's kind of, given away, but there is no way, but it goes in a drawer, it ends up eventually in a landfill. And, we can make such even choices there that are much better.
That you're wearing?
Oh yeah, the hoodie I have on today, 20 plus years old. And it's a Patagonia hoodie. There's a company that is really making durable goods that will take them back if they get damaged, or they'll repair them. They'll take them straight back from you and make sure they get recycled or repurposed.
Or used into the next generation.
The next generation of it. But it's the same thing we're seeing with the masks. If you have just things that you consider kind of to throw away, but as we know, there is no away, right?
Never, not in this part of the universe, anyway.
And so it's something we can really help, I think, to again, provoke meaningful change if we can get people to think about their expenditures and how they spend their money and what happens to things at life end. So what do you think, guys, with the holiday season upon us, what are some things we can do to kind of encourage better shopping habits,
Like cotton instead of,
or hemp, or
yeah,
Or-
instead of synthetics.
What do you think, Melody? You first.
I think we should use like reusable wrapping paper is one solution for holiday gift wrapping, because there's a ton of trash just by wrapping up presents. And sometimes I'm like, you don't need to wrap up presents, because it just creates even more trash. And it's just a present, and also bows. My mom always saves them and just puts them on and reuses them every single time. Instead of buying bows every single time with extra plastic wrap around them, we reuse them as much as possible. Yeah, and I mean, I think those are some solutions. Yeah.
absolutely.
How about brown paper packages wrapped up with
Yeah.
string?
That's a good use
thing
of your paper bag. Yeah.
One idea that we sort of incorporated into our family, and I want to encourage my family to do it even more, is to not necessarily gift a thing, but rather gift an experience, which
Yeah.
can be
Oh,
just as, if not even more meaningful.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. If you can
Hmm.
organize and it doesn't have to be like a big exotic trip somewhere. It can just be, a paddle around a lake or a bay near where you live, or
time
camping
shared.
trip, just time shared is so
in
important.
a great place. Yeah, agreed.
I totally agree with that one.
Or scuba lessons. A gift of scuba
The
lessons.
gift of scuba, yes. So, and we're even seeing that things that are, completely recyclable, like these aluminum cans, they still end up in the environment, and still need to be tracked. So, you can have a company that's doing the right thing by, using packaging that's completely recyclable and has value. And yet, for some reason, it still ends up sort of
Garbage. Yeah.
out here. These ended up right out in front of our building, and I had to make a nice little
Looks like
portrait of them.
A robot had just walked by and left droppings.
Yeah, robot droppings.
Liz, one of the interesting things about data is you can start to understand the story behind why those cans were there. You can ask questions, right?
Right.
And whether is there the right infrastructure in place? Are there the right recycling bins nearby? Is there nothing? Are there the proper educational initiatives in this area? You can really start sort of prodding to get to the root cause, the underlying reason as to why is this there? And then how do we prevent this going forward?
Right. I think when you were at COP, you were talking about, cities of various kinds, and how, if we look at coral reefs or forests as cities, they have no waste.
No, they don't.
And how is
There's
it that
no
we
waste
have
in
cities?
nature.
There's no waste in nature. And how is it that we've gotten to this point where as humans, we create so much waste?
Right. No, everything that is generated in a coral reef is, trash. Somebody's trash is somebody else's treasure. But it's actually more like the food web, the whole nutrient cycle is really part of how the natural world has been created over time. We generate junk, and it's killing not just the ocean and places on the land, it's affecting us personally right now.
Mhm.
And I think we were talking about this before we went live, but the notion of junk, so much of it comes from this need for our convenience.
Right.
This just the behavior of society. We need immediate consumption all the time. It's just a way of life for so many of us.
Right. And I think we've seen this it's another uptick we've had since the pandemic, where, coffee shops they wouldn't allow us to bring our own cups anymore. We couldn't bring our own bags anymore. We were kind of like forced to use single-use items in a quest to protect our health. And at the same, but there's sort of a backfire situation, because now we're seeing the result of that in a huge uptick in the.
Get one of those boxes over there. On the other side, there are companies that are doing their best to not have plastic. There's the
What is this?
laundry
This is-
material that comes now
Oh, yeah.
instead of in plastic bottles.
What is this? This is
It's
a
a cos-
face.
Yeah.
I'm gonna rip it open. I'm sorry.
Whoa, go for it.
So
Cosmetics that instead of being in plastic
oh,
containers,
look at that. It's in a cardboard tube. Interesting.
and what is it? What is this?
Space cream.
Face cream.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not in plastic. It's in something that'll just, you could probably put this in your compost
So that
pile.
laundry detergent that you have, that just little sheets
Yeah.
instead of a big bottle that ultimately you throw away after you've poured out the laundry detergent.
So you
It just
say,
comes in little sheets that
so you're not shipping water, you're not using plastic,
Right.
you know, so
So-
it's the little things like that that can really make that big
we're
difference.
on a trend in the right direction.
And also, I have something to add. I also get my own like sunscreen from Echo stores in my own bulk. So then like I wouldn't have to buy too many sunscreen or like other cosmetics that, you know, what we use. And I also buy reef safe ones. So then if I go snorkeling, I wouldn't harm the environment because of my sunscreen, because it really affects corals as well. So it is
Yep.
like really useful.
Yeah. Yeah. The
Being-
bulk store is great.
Being mindful, just ask the question, where'd this come from and where's it going?
So Jeff, can you tell us a bit about this map that you sent in?
Sure. So this is a visualization of 15 million data points collected on the Literati platform on every continent. And I think what this illustrates for us is, again, that sense of community and that sense that we're all connected. It doesn't matter if you live in Perth or if you live in Pinole, right? We are all faced with this challenge, and we can all work together to come up with a solution. And admittedly, the solutions that may work for a place like Manila in the Philippines are very different that might work for San Francisco or Manhattan. But it's that ability to, again, identify and gather that information, the data, that's really going to, I think, help us dig ourselves out of this problem.
It's an awesome
It
visualization.
really is, makes you think, and that's what all of us should be doing.
And it's, again, it's another one of these real causes for hope,
Yeah.
because we can see that, that every one of these data points, somebody had to go out and get that data, right?
Well, what's fascinating is that what we've been able to do is visualize this on a pretty scalable map. So the macro view, which is what we see here, shows that sort of global connectedness. But when you go down to not just the country, not just the state, not just the city, but the block, you can start to really compare and contrast one block versus another and understand, well, what is the difference between these two spots and why are they different? And then not only measure the difference in terms of space, the spatial difference, but also over time. So now at Literati, we're starting to monitor litter over time. What is that block? What is that street? What does that state look like in January versus February versus March? Because now you start to get really interesting insights about things like seasonality, weather, and that's really a lot of our focus.
That's awesome. And is it also the case that you're able to kind of track sort of, brands that are maybe kind of bad actors? Are there, more plastic Coke bottles in one area? Are there more McDonald's straws, or are there Starbucks lids, or what are they and where are they coming from?
Yeah, we can and we do. And the way Literati works is we like to say that it's simple yet sophisticated. It's done through either an iPhone or an Android application that is free for anyone to download. You snap a photo, and that photo holds a lot of data. It tells us who picked up what, where, and when. So there's a geotag so that we understand latitude and longitude, provided that people allowed their location to be shown. There's a timestamp. And the what is kind of what you're referring to. We use computer vision or AI to look at that photo and say, what are the objects? What are the materials? What are the brands? And that can be tricky because you're dealing with things that are in different states of decay and decomposition.
Yeah.
But because we're gathering so much information, we're training those models. We're educating the ability for them to look at, for example, that green bottle cap in the middle there and understand, does that have a unique indicator that can tell us what is the brand if we can't see the logo? If we know it's a bottle cap, we know that it's this material or that material. And that's the data set that we're building.
You did a TED talk about some of this, didn't you?
I did.
Well, that's another source that people can tune in and hear another take on what you're doing and why you're doing it and how you're doing it.
Yeah, it's really the story of why we started and where we think this can go. And yeah, you can see that on TED.com.
It's awesome. And it's just such this is a really interesting image because it does show all these bottle caps, and it shows one of the most annoying pieces of plastic that really chaps my hide are those little tabs that come on every single loaf of bread bread or muffins or even crackers and things. But why do we have those? There's got to be a better. Those could be made of cardboard. They could be made out of light wood. There's lots of different materials that could be made out of. You could buy your bread from a local bakery and get it in a bag.
Or just take a bag of your own, the way we used to.
Yes.
I come from the pre-plastica scene. No plastic existed when you went to the grocery store when I was a kid. It just didn't exist.
You had to bring a bag for your baguette.
Yeah, things like that. Well, civilization got along perfectly well without plastic stuff.
Well, I mean, it's true. If you think back
thousands of years,
if you go back and you talk to, an elder in the community and you say, what did you do before plastic? And you get, or even just kind of reading, books or accounts or old family journals or things like that. But what did people do before plastic? And
they got by.
And would some of those things be worth kind of revisiting?
Yeah.
Kind of relaunching.
Absolutely. Become treasures. Ah, there's the warrior.
Yeah, warrior princess time. So Melody, I know you started using the Literati app, and how are you sharing that information? And how did you share information before you started using the app about your
So before I started my beach cleanup, I used a social media network, Instagram, and I have my own account. I would share what I'd find, some interesting things that I found and some awkward things that I find sometimes.
Oh, yes.
And sometimes it just gets too awkward. But yeah, and now that I'm using Literati, I'm so happy that I'm able to use it now and that I learned about it, because I could share data with other people and they could use my data for future purposes. Like, let's say if you were to tell your community of how we could stop plastic pollution, or your school, and also I was able to figure out and dive more deeper into the material, the object, the brand. And then I could look at that and say, oh my, that's a lot of trash, like one certain piece of trash. And, it is really fun to do that. It's addicting, like a video game. And it's like, it became even more fun than, what I've done before. So yeah, that's what I love about Literati.
You know what I love about this photo is you could just feel your sense of accomplishment and pride.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a lot of work, it takes several hours just to clean up this one patch of, this one area with just microplastics everywhere. But by making these little efforts, you kind of understand how hard it is for a lot of people just to pick up a lot of things in other areas, like my area, like Rancho Palos Verdes, San Pedro. It's really hard, because it just keeps coming in, but just making these efforts kind of reminds you of why you're doing this and what effect you're making. So that's what I love about doing beach cleanups.
Yeah, and it's great exercise. You're outdoors, so you can be socially distanced. There's nothing to not like about going out and doing a beach cleanup. It's
yeah.
You do feel that wonderful sense of accomplishment. And here's some of the items that you collected up, these little pieces broken down, and then how can we tell what did this start off as?
Yeah, and also I don't know if this is true or not, but since the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is near Hawaii, very close to Hawaii, it might have come from there, or it might have just broken down, and I don't even know what it's made out of, or what it was. But I mean, just knowing that you're picking up just a little bit, means a lot to me, you know, because just picking up one piece of trash is just really emotional, because you understand that animals are suffering, you know, because of these needles and microplastics. But if you just pick up a few pieces, it just encourages you to pick up more.
Right. Because I mean, you're looking at these size pieces. I mean, any fish or bird could swallow this kind of stuff, and then have it like in their intestinal tract, and really giving them a lot of trouble.
Yeah, you see the little round nurdles. They call them mermaid tears.
Yeah.
And
Probably
some artists are actually picking up these materials and turning them into art objects. At least they're off the beach.
Yeah. I bought a little vaquita, I would say like an art piece from Drift Ocean Designs, which uses several pieces of plastic and makes it into art. So then you could just display it, and it's so amazing to see how they find other ways to use plastic or reuse it, you know? And it's like really cool just to have that in your room or in your living room, because it's just like, wow, it's plastic, you know, it's plastic art, it's trash art. And yeah, it's like really fun just to have it in your room, just hanging there.
It's more beautiful because you know it's not out there killing something.
That's exactly right. But you know, we've got a lot of the Mission Blue Hope spots are out there now. How many are there now?
Nearly 140. Yeah.
140 hope spots. So it's again, more reasons for hope. But I mean, we're thinking, you know, there's got to be a way to kind of connect the Mission Blue Hope spots and, you know, maybe Literati trying to, and I know Jeff and Melody, you've been kind of chatting a little bit about this issue and how could we, you know, how can we do something? And of course, because you both are doers, we're gonna do what I think we need kind of less conversation and more action. So what have you guys come up with?
Well, I'm going to give all the credit to where the credit is due. And it was Melody's idea that we should try to create a challenge on the Literati application for the dive-in audience. And so that's exactly what we did. So if anybody wants to download the app and just enter the code dive in, they are automatically into this challenge. And that group of participants together will try to pick up as many pieces as possible from now until the end of the year. We set 2 goals for the challenge. One is 100 participants. And something tells me we may have at least 4 people already on the way to that 100. And we set it, see? And maybe within all the people here, that's another 50. So we're probably halfway there. And then we set a piece goal of 10,000 pieces, which I know sounds like an ambitious goal, but you'd be surprised what a few very dedicated Earth warriors can accomplish.
And it doesn't count if you take one piece and break it into 2.
No, it does not, Sylvia.
No. That's so awesome. That's just, you know, just to see that there's actual action happening in a challenge like that. I think we can make those goals happen and you know, again, have it be just more inspiration.
This is one of the hope spots where individuals are inspired to go pick up the stuff from their coastal area, but letting them know that there is this challenge and spread the word among all the hope spot. This is in the Seychelles in the Indian Ocean. It's all the way on the other side of the world. But I'll bet some of that trash has come from this part of the world. Trash travels, it does. And being able to track the trash is really instructive. It makes it possible to think about, dream about return to sender.
Right.
Where did this originate? Let's send it back to where it came from.
Have you done that, Jeff? Have you had trash come in and you like ship it back to the manufacturer?
So we call them stories of impact, and we've kind of taken it to the next level, and it's really because of the power of the community. I'll give you one example. In Holland, there is a company that produces a small plastic wrapped candy cough drop. It's called anti-flu, like anti-flu. And so the Dutch Literati community picked up over 40,000 of these plastic wrappers. Everything was mapped, all the data was aggregated and mapped, and they went to the CEO of the company. And to his credit, he said, I need to change the supply chain. Give me 1 year to do it. 9 months later, it was done. And those anti-glues are now not wrapped in plastic, they're wrapped in paper and sealed with wax. And it just shows you the power of what the data can do when presented in a way that's easy for someone to understand and be motivated by it.
That's a beautiful story. And it's
Yeah.
one, it's not like, you're like coming and giving them a slap across the chops. You're saying, look, there's a problem here. Let's work together to solve it. Let's come up with something that is better. And so again, inspiration and hope that it is not just sort of this
that leads to action.
that
Yeah.
there is a better way, and that I'm sure that their bottom line improved after that as well, because now they're doing a responsible thing. All those people who contributed to the data collection are going to say, hey, we made a big difference. And again, that just
Good for their reputation.
good for the reputation, good for the planet.
Yeah, I think the challenge in front of all of us when it comes to data is data can be messy and it can be confusing. So I think it's that balance of using data and information and positioning it with a story that is really clear and concise and ultimately compelling.
This is part of your collection, isn't it, Melody?
Yeah.
Look at those straws. Who needs to use? I mean, there is a place for straws, but I don't see why we have to. Well, we don't have to use
Yeah.
straws.
And also, I have my own metal straw right here. So if I
Right.
were to use something, I'd always bring it to school, to other fast food restaurants, or anywhere I go, just in case I need to use this for something,
Yeah.
And I always refuse, also plastic utensils. Instead, I buy bamboo utensils and I bring it wherever I go. So then I could reduce the amount of plastic that I use in my everyday life. So, and I'm making these efforts because, I can't do it every day, but at least I could do something to reduce my
Everyone can do
plastic use.
something. Absolutely, everyone can do something every day.
For sure.
And
Times 8 billion makes a big difference.
yeah, I mean, if you just take your an odd fork from the kitchen that doesn't match your other forks, you just throw it in your bag, and you've got that ready to go. There's all kinds of things you can do. But the straw, of course, the lips are great. Take a drink of water, use your lips. I thought the funniest thing was when I saw the study that said the use of the straw, creates wrinkles around the mouth, and everybody was like, "Oh no, no wrinkles in my lips. Better use my lips, exercise all the lip muscles. So
Nothing like vanity to get people to move.
right." But we talk about the data, and we've got just such a small amount of the ocean that's actually fully protected.
It's actually this information came from from 2017.
2017, yeah.
They claim 6%. That's not really fully protected. Even now, in 2021, the real number is about 3%. That means that 97% of the ocean is really open for whatever, open for extraction, for dumping, you name it. That has to change. You say
Indeed.
at least 30% by 2030. Well, as you point out, it's a good start, and it's the least we can do, and not stop there. You got to look at the whole ocean the way that as if it really matters, and it really does.
It does, and part of it, kind of looking at a map like this, these are more areas that we can kind of help to
Inspire the community.
communities to do better, and to keep the trash from reaching the ocean in the first place is kind of job one. But then tracking it and realizing that just like the large marine mammals, large fish like tuna, the trash doesn't really know boundaries, right? It's going to go where it goes. It's carried by the currents and the winds and the tides. And so it's not just sort of this finger pointing thing. We all have to kind of take some responsibility to try to do better.
Like the climate
Yeah,
issues,
and
like
climate.
COVID-19.
And also, like, we've discovered more of space than the ocean. But I
Mhm.
think what we should do is focus on our planet first. Instead of focusing on other planets for the future, we have to stick to what's happening right now, because we could do that whenever we can, but we only have a limited amount of time just to save the ocean. So I feel like that we should discover more of the ocean and uncover what's left, and use that information for future uses or sustainability. So I feel like we should focus on our planet first because it matters more than space.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Here, here. At least equal time and equal resources to go into understanding this part of the universe.
Our life support system.
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot about the trash that shows up on the beaches, on the land, on the highways, wherever it occurs. But there's a lot of it that occurs underwater as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is where divers and snorkelers can really help. So here's Melody. She's on the move, snorkeling. But at Dewey, our Deep Ocean Explorer store is now a PADI mission hub. PADI is collaborating with Mission Blue.
Right.
It just seems that there's this real opportunity for whether you're a diver, snorkeler, swimmer, boater. There's all kinds of things that we can do to start understanding how pervasive is trash in the ocean. I know for a fact that we found a Dasani water bottle at 4,000 meters in the ocean using one of our ROV systems. It was the first thing we saw when we turned on the lights and camera on the ROV. And we've certainly seen fishing nets and other kinds of debris. So I'd love
Victor Vescovo, going to the deepest part of the ocean, found trash.
Yeah,
it's everywhere. So
I'm really hopeful that we can inspire the diving community, or anybody who's underwater for diving or snorkeling,
on or under,
to recover what trash they find, and to it's apps don't quite work underwater yet.
But once you bring it
yet,
back,
yes, Jeff.
Getting there.
But we could at least bring it ashore and still document it and still contribute to the to the data points, because if at least we get it back to the beach, then we can say where we kind of lash it up to our dive logs and understand where it came from.
Well, it's interesting that the communities and the organizations that spend so much time on the water are the ones who care so much about the water and are willing to take the action to preserve and protect the water, right? So whether it's organizations like Mission Blue or the Surfrider Foundation or Five Gyres or Algalita or Lone Whale Foundation, it's those organizations that are really taking the first step to leading so many of us.
I completely agree. And we're going to move on to some of the questions now, because I think we've got a few coming in.
A chance for you to speak your mind as well, either one of you.
That's right. All right. So Stephanie is asking us, does the data collected from Literati coincide with other tracking apps such as Clean Swell? And is there any way to combine data?
Interesting.
It's a great question, and we've gotten asked that many times. So right now, we don't have sort of a formalized integration, if you will. But what you're asking is such an important question, which is, how do we unify the data so that it's consistent and comparable? And I think if you talk to anybody who's in the field of collecting data in any area, that's always one of the trickiest things. And you deal with issues like translation, right? People in different countries have to interface with it based on their native language. And also how you identify objects. So for example, does somebody call this thing a piece of plastic? Or let me back up. Someone called this thing a plastic cup, and someone else refers to it as a plastic container. So how do you normalize that across the data collection? Or if I were to tag something as Coke, but Sylvia were to tag it as Coca-Cola, and Melody were to tag it as Coca-Cola. Suddenly you have these three different tags, but they're really representing the same brand. And so while we don't currently have an integration with CleanSwell, that's exactly where we're trying to head, to open this up, to make it usable by the masses, like Melody said.
Awesome. Victoria is asking, has Literati ever thought about having a school outreach program to expand its reach? I personally didn't know about the tool until today. That would create a bigger visual impact on the younger generation. Education is so important in avoiding litter.
Victoria, you are so right, and I'm thrilled that today is day one, so welcome to the community. In fact, we do, and we have an entire educational curriculum that is STEM-based, and there are a variety of 30+ lesson plans. You can find them at edu.literati.org. I can put that in chat, but by all means, we work with a lot of schools all over, and we'd love to have you join us.
That's an excellent idea. I think schools are such a huge area of impact. From the cafeteria to sort of peer leadership opportunities. You can lead by example just by, like Melody, bringing her metal straw and her bamboo utensils to class. And imagine if everybody in the school does that, right? Really have the ability for impact.
You really do. We have this thing that we like to say, which is individually you make a difference, but together is where we create an impact.
Exactly. Trisha's, go ahead.
Victoria has just noted you're talking about finding the Dasani water bottle in the deep sea, and here's a NOAA ship that recently found a soccer ball and a root beer can at about 1,176 meters on the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, it's not surprising at all. We see that kind of stuff all the time when we're out there, and it's the other, another big piece of it that isn't really talked about is the loss of the sea containers.
Right.
There's hundreds of sea containers lost over the side of ships every year, and many of them kind of float around for a while, and eventually they sink, and they may burst open at some point, or they may burst open on impact or during a storm, and then they spread things like tennis shoes and rubber ducks and nurdles. But a lot of it sinks. A lot of it will, some of it comes to the shore, but a lot of it eventually sinks. And you even saw a hermit crab that was using an aspirin bottle instead of a shell,
right,
as a home.
Pretty sad.
It
was lightweight. It was durable,
yeah,
but it's also very sad.
Very, very sad. Okay, let's hop back to the questions. Patricia says it's important to pick up the trash we find, but what solutions are we also creating so they aren't getting recycled back into the environment somehow, thus back to square one? So I guess that's
your shirt.
Yeah, my shirt, right? I guess it comes in, you've got to pick up the trash that's out there, but it is really a huge problem of, in some cases, people don't want the trash, right? They don't want, there's no way to recycle it because we've made a bad manufacturing choice in the beginning to choose a material that can't be easily
about the
circular economy.
Right. So that as in a coral reef or in a kelp forest or in the ocean as a whole, what waste? There is no waste. Everything goes into a second or third or fourth life and is reborn. It's true with the materials in our various devices, like cell phones and computers, and look through the whole range of the materials that we use that underpins our prosperity. We shouldn't throw them away. We need a car. A car should be valuable at the end of its life as a motorized vehicle. Tear it apart, make it easy to tear it apart, and reuse or reapply those materials in some future life. That's what happens in the ocean. Nothing is really is regarded as junk. It isn't. Even the bones of creatures become a habitat and source of calcium and other materials for the
there's whole
ecosystem, like a whale fall.
Yeah, like a whale fall. There's whole species of worms that just feed on whale skeletons. It's kind of specialized niche, but they're still there. And there are some studies being done where they're working with microbes to see, can microbes help break down some of this plastic waste, and at what rate. But we know that the problem is just overwhelming at this point. So despite the might of microbes, we need to do a better job out the gate in not getting the stuff into the environment to begin with. Okay, let's see here. Jeff, George is asking this. How about some SDG 17
Comments.
or and how could those plastics be collated on the map?
When you say how can they, George, I'm looking at your question. I guess I want to know a little bit more, but is it, understanding how some of the plastics can be visualized on the map, how we can start to group and aggregate and categorize it? I'd love to know more regarding what your question is asking specifically.
George is one of our longtime viewers and participants. So George, send me a detailed message and we'll get it to Jeff for follow-up. Let's see.
Surfers against sewage. I love it. That's in England.
Yeah. Benita's saying, have you heard about Surfers Against Sewage in England, in Cornwall?
Fantastic organization led by Hugo Tagholm. They are doing great work.
Again, there should be no waste.
Yeah. I mean, but again, that's one of those things. I mean, again, talking about sewage, why are we still conveying sewage with, drinking water and then flushing it all out to sea? And oftentimes carrying some plastic. We've seen, I think many of us have seen the picture of the seahorse with its tail wrapped around a cotton bud, a plastic cotton bud. So those kinds of small debris are not filtered out of treated wastewater, and they do just get ejected right out into the ocean, small plastics like that. Okay, Cash says, I'm 12 like Melody, and I'm focused on the Tennessee River because that's where I live. Our river is so polluted, and I've removed 14,000 pounds of trash.
Wow.
But how do you get people not near the ocean to feel connected to the ocean? Because where I live, people don't see that connection most of the time. Okay, Melody, this is another 12-year-old. Have you got some wisdom?
I'm actually friends with Cash. Hi, Cash. This is Melody. So I think that even though you're not connected to the ocean, it doesn't mean that you can't do anything, because every person has a voice. Every person is able to do something in their communities, in their neighborhoods, even though if they don't even live in the ocean. Go to your local waterways or your neighborhood, and you could do you could just pick up trash. It doesn't matter if you live near the ocean or not. It matters about the action that you take to save the ocean.
Absolutely true. And rivers and creeks and lakes, they all lead ultimately to the ocean, and a lot of plastic debris gets there by wind as well. It can be carried. So you're right that every action can help. Every piece picked up or doesn't get there to begin with is a positive step.
And there was a question about the Great Ocean Cleanup and what we think about that. They started by going out to get the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, but now they're really putting their focus on rivers, like in Tennessee. That's the origin of much of the trash that goes into the ocean, to stop it before it gets there. And anything you can do upstream really helps the downstream issue. So
indeed. Christina is asking, what type of classes or operational experience should someone have? Oops, where's my question? There it is. To do this kind of work, working with plastics and data and connecting companies to the plastic impact based on the evidence, and how can we help inspire them to change their packaging?
Well, we have an example already of inspiring a change in their.
I was going to pass this question off to Melody, but so Christina, here's the great news: is there's so many different areas that can be utilized to help this problem. Let me give you an example. So I run a technology company. I can't write a line of code. I don't know the first thing about it, but I know something about telling stories. And I have other colleagues who know stuff about data and data collection and data science. And I have other colleagues who know about building relationships with companies. So if I just look at the people that I work with, you have all different areas of expertise, from storytelling to data collection to engineering to statistics.
Exactly right.
There's a need for everyone.
Yep.
So I would say, what really gets you up in the morning? And what is an area where you can apply something that you are deeply passionate about and align that with the problem that needs to be solved? That's a good place to start.
What do you think, Melanie?
Well, I think that, let me see the question again. Oh, the question's gone.
That's right.
But I mean, applying it to school is really, I think it should definitely be a school subject, ocean conservation or environmentalism, or, you know, whatever it's called. But I think that it's really important to apply this for education, because kids really don't know what's happening because of our throwaway culture and just leaving it there. I mean,
Yeah.
once I picked up trash, I was actually able to see how much trash, you know, there actually is. Because before that, I didn't even notice trash. I didn't even think that trash was that bad. But now I really understood why, you know, we have to make these efforts. So, I mean, it should definitely become a school subject, and kids should really learn from other people that they look up to. So yeah.
So think about how we got to where we are in the 21st century. We have consumed nature. We've taken materials to build our cities, to build our lives. It really is time to say enough already. We need to recycle, we want to go mining. Let's mine our trash. Let's find the goods, the materials that are there, and fashion them in ways that give them a new life. It's so such an obvious thing for us to do.
You know, we've
Good.
squandered so much so quickly.
Right.
Sylvia, you know what you just reminded me of, and Liz, we were talking about your Patagonia jacket. Years ago, Yvon Chouinard, who's the founder of Patagonia, wrote an article, and I remember reading it, and I remember him saying, "You don't need to buy another jacket every year from me.
No.
Enough already.
Yeah.
Take the one and use it for 10, 15, 20 years. And when it,
This is proof.
right.
Yeah,
But that notion of enough.
it is. There is enough is a good thing.
And the idea that all of these great materials are just waiting to be accessed and turned into something that will continue and be a new life, give old stuff a new life. Why not? And look around in your own house. What can be converted into something? Instead of going to the store to buy a new thing, what have you got?
Upcycle,
Yeah.
repurpose and upcycle, and thrift, you know, all kinds of things.
Yeah, it's a good habit to get into.
Yes,
Anyway.
especially for gift giving. Regifting is not always bad.
And that paper wrapping business,
Yeah.
or whatever wrapping paper is made of these days. First of all, ask if you can dress it up in a way that doesn't require, you know, new material.
Yeah. Okay, Martin is asking, what do you think about the use of bubble walls to prevent trash from getting from rivers into the ocean? Do they actually work? And how could more be funded?
I don't have an answer for that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we've used them. We've used the bubble curtains sometimes in construction where they're doing, like, you know, blasting or things to make an acoustic barrier,
Yeah.
to, you know, help protect ocean wildlife or fish life. But it's one of these things, you know, you're introducing, again, something new into the environment, and it may be able to help stimulate the plastic to congregate in a certain area, so it's easier to collect. But I mean, still, job one remains not letting it get there to begin with.
Right. And everything we do to manipulate the environment, we need
Comes
to
with a
think
cost.
about, think about who lives there. What would a fish trying to get from here to there do when it encounters a bubble wall?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's okay. Maybe it's not.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a better way. Don't let it get there in the first place, as you say.
Right. So again, I think getting back to if you have the choice on the shelf, which one do I buy? Look at the fully burdened cost of that thing. What is it packaged in? How can it be
And what are you going to do with that thing
when
that
you're
you
done?
Yeah.
Let's see. Martin, this is again asking about cradle to cradle designs and how can those be encouraged or mandated? And I think it's, the power of consumer spending, really.
It should be fashionable.
It should be fashionable. We don't want fast fashion. We want enduring fashion.
Yeah.
We want those, the classic pieces, the things that really will stand the test of time. And then, take some joy into like, what are you going to do with it at the end? If you know what its end use is going to be, there can be some real joy and hope in that. Well, let's see if we have any other questions we want to grab. I know it is the top of the hour, and we don't want to take too much of Jeff and Melody's time.
But we ought to give them a chance to wrap up their thoughts.
Yes, we should.
Yeah.
What do you think, guys?
Melody, after you.
So what I think, like also some advice for, kids from my experience. I'm still a kid. I just don't know what to say, but I mean, I think the first step is taking action. Taking action is the very first step, and also making many ocean friends because, you could get a ton of encouragement by them and you could learn more and also learn about the importance of the ocean. That's also a step because, Florco carcass, it, makes our oxygen for us and it helps us breathe. And also read books, get education and, keep working hard, never give up. Yeah, that's what I have to say.
Awesome.
Like it.
Jeff?
Well, not much to add other than you don't have to solve it all tomorrow.
No.
And you don't have to solve it all by yourself. Just take one step, one action, whatever that means, whether it's picking up one piece of trash or buying one less item, just take one step.
Every day.
Every day. That's right. We have the same way we have count our steps on our watches these days. Let's count our trash picked up,
Well, what's amazing is that you take one of anything for a long enough time and suddenly you are removing 14,000 pounds of trash from a river in Tennessee.
Exactly. And as we know, getting out there and picking up trash is good exercise. We even have whole communities that are doing this plogging, right? They're getting out there and instead of going to the CrossFit gym or the whatever fitness club, they're making a fitness activity out of picking up trash and
making the ocean healthier in the bargain.
Yeah, making them help themselves healthier, the ocean's healthier, and engaging the community and kids to go with them. So it's a great activity, and at the end of the day, you'll just see the results of not finding any trash. Hopefully.
So Jeff, do you want to repeat this challenge just so people have it clearly in their...
Absolutely. So we would love you all to join us. Download the Literati app. Doesn't matter if you have an Android phone or an iOS phone. When it'll ask you to join a challenge. If you have a join code, it's that simple. And the join code is dive in. That automatically places all of us together. We have a global campaign with a challenge of 100 people to pick up 10,000 pieces by the end of the year. And that's how we will actually all make a difference. Just this little community right here.
And we'll have you back so you can announce the results.
Yes, please. Yeah, and follow you on Twitter and Instagram and Melody too. Absolutely, that'd be awesome. Well, thank you guys. We are kind of went over time a little bit, but we really deeply appreciate you both joining us today and talking about such an important topic, especially ahead of the holiday madness, holidays as I call them. And it's just incredible. And so thank you again. And thank you to our guests and our producer, the Ocean Elders. And thank you again to all of our veterans out there. We so deeply appreciate your service. And asking you to join us again in December. We are going to be joined by Treetop Meg Lohman.
She's an Arbonaut.
Arbonaut. Here's her book that you can read in advance, talking about her treetop adventures.
She uses her natural primate abilities to climb trees.
And now I'm going to do some really heavy lifting because this has just come out. This is Sylvia's new big ocean book. It's very thick, very heavy, but this is why we only had one episode this month, is because she's having to do a book tour for this big bad boy. So
All virtual.
but again, deepest thanks to everyone. Water connects us all, and we are so grateful to everyone in the diving community for coming back and joining us on these programs. And until next time, remember, protect the ocean.
As if your life depends on it, because
it does. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Melody.
thank you.
Bye for now.